From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov.
So again, I'm recording live through Mainstage, and I'm monitoring live through my plugins the same way you would with a DSP Apollo system, but I'm using native plugins running on my M1 Mac. And it occurred to me this morning, right? I know that a lot of you don't have Macs, right? This is a $30 program. Mainstage is $30 on a Mac, and you get all these built-in plugins for free. You don't get the AMIC 9099. That cost me $49 on sale. And I don't know how Plugin Alliance really prices their sale prices. It's like however the wind blows, but you can usually find it on a good deal. But it occurred to me this morning, like if you don't have a Mac, right? Wouldn't it be cheaper than buying an Apollo to buy a Mac M1, which is $599, right? I think the cheapest Apollo, the cheapest new Apollo is $1,000, right? And it's still using, well, last generation converters. And especially if you buy a used one. If you buy a used Apollo for like $500, you're getting like 2 or 3 converter generations ago. So if you bought a new Apollo for $1,000, right? And you'd still have to buy a bunch of plugins to go with it. You get a handful of some useful stuff. But, for voiceover, you'd have to dig in deep and get some good stuff. But think about this. For $599, you could buy a Mac M1, an 8 gigabyte Mac M1, which is what I'm using for everything. For voiceover, it's really all you need, right? So you get an M1 Mac for $599. I bought the Plugin Alliance AMIC 9099, like I said, for $49? And these came free. The de-esser and the compressor. And actually, the Apple plugins are really good. They're very transparent. And they're going to be compatible. So, think about that for a second. $599, $50. Let's say you spend another $150 on plugins, right? Still, for like less than $700. You could get in, okay, let's say $750, even if you spend $800, right? So, and then you can use your own interface. You don't have to get a new interface. So if you're like, oh yeah, I have a RME, I have something better. I have something with better converters. I don't want to downgrade to the Apollo converter. So yeah, that was the question on my mind this morning, because I have to tell you that so far the Mainstage experiment has been pretty amazing and really opening my eyes to all the possibilities out there, all the great plugins out there. And there's some great freebie ones out there, some great free preamps, channel strips that I'll try to show you guys maybe next week. But how incredible is this whole ecosystem now that with native, right? You can go to that same like zero latency or near zero latency that you have with Apollo. And yet you have the ability to use so many more plugins. And even if you just used Mainstage to extend what you could do with your Apollo, think about it. So there's a lot going on with Mainstage, and this experiment continues. It's a joyful experiment because I'm really liking the options here. And just to show you, hold on one second. You know what? So I'm on the TLM67. Let me show you what my usual rig. Let me compare this sound of the AMIC 9099 to my usual rig on the Apollo. Hold on, let me bring that up real quick. All right, so you're still listening to the Mainstage, and oh sorry, and this is the Apollo rig. So the Apollo rig, you can hear, has a lot more going on in the low mids, like almost like a woolliness that I never really heard before. Or you know what, maybe I never acknowledged it before. Maybe I never really thought of it as a problem before. But then when we go back to Mainstage, you don't get that really thick, saturated low mid. It's a lot more clear, which is obviously going to be better for voiceover because, again, we all love that big, thick sound, but when you're doing professional voiceover, that big, thick low mid really doesn't cut it. It's really more about the timbre of your voice where you can get that resonance, where you can hit really the main tones of your voice and presenting those in a clear and detailed way. That's more important than trying to create a thickness down there that simulates a bigger low end, because that stuff just interferes with the mix anyway. So anyway, there's a lot more going on. Let's get rid of this. There's a lot more going on with Mainstage. than I'm really almost even prepared to handle right now. It's overwhelming, but I'm excited about going down this rabbit hole. All right, microphone assassination, Mainstage. I'm telling you, this really feels like it's going to be the pivot point. As a plugin host, it works great. I mean, you really can get in there and just add the plugins you want very organically too, because it works. It is the front end of Logic. So if you know how to use Logic, if you know how to use a DAW, you can really set this up pretty easily. It's not really like something where you have to get in there and there's a big learning curve. There are a few things you have to figure out, but you know what? It's pretty intuitive. So, so that's the question. If you don't have a Mac, right? Would it be cheaper to buy a Mac and Mainstage, right? Just buy a Mac just to run Mainstage. If you're going to buy a piece of hardware to run a piece of software anyway in the Apollo, and if you already have a good interface, why would you downgrade to the Apollo converter, right? Why couldn't you? I'm not saying wouldn't you. Why couldn't you buy a Mac, run Mainstage, and have a plethora of amazing plugins that you could use with Mainstage, either in conjunction with your Apollo or as an alternative to Apollo? Because it's a lot easier to travel with Mainstage and a small interface than with your Apollo, unless you just grab your twin and throw it in a bag. I mean, but still. All right. What do you think? I want to know. All right, leave a comment. Until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemcoff, fading to black.